I mean, hell, this whole film honestly could have just, if it was in America, it could have been an ad for Carhartt. They're all wearing, anyway, but that's beside the point.
Gotta keep up. With the thief.
For today's film, we have A24. You sure know how to pick them. We have The Lamb. So The Lamb, you haven't heard of it? Sure, I mean, surely you've seen the trailer, right? No? I mean, it's if you haven't heard of it, then this is going to be really weird, but if you have heard of it, it's literally just like the film with the lamb baby hybrid. That's it. There's no spoiler there. That's in the trailer. It's like this couple lives in this idyllic, like, middle of nowhere in the mountains, tending to sheep, and one day they happen across a half human, half sheep, with like a sheep's head, human body kind of hybrid, and then it's like, oh, this is now our child, and that's the movie. Before we get into it, director Valdemar Johansson, I believe. Valdemar Johansson. So in terms of direction, this is actually his like big directorial debut, but he's done producing, camera work, and visual effects for such films as recently The Tomorrow War, back in the day, Rogue One, and even further back in the day, Oblivion. So he's knows his way around a camera and how to do visual effects, and now he's stepped up to the plate, and this man is directing his first film. And I mean, overall, like, it's well directed, it's well shot. I'll get into that in a minute. The main two stars, it's a very small cast, but the main gal you've seen over all the posters holding the lamb in her arms, that's Naomi Rapace, or I think I'm saying it right. Oh god, I'm probably not. But Naomi here. Most notably, you might recognize her name or her face. She was in the original Swedish Girl with the Dragon Tattoo movie, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. So like, she was arguably the star of that besides the other one. It's been so long since I've read the books, I'm forgetting the names now. And she was also one of the two main characters in Prometheus. She was the other female doctor opposite Logan Marshall Green. She's been in Swedish films, she's been in American films. Americans are coming to know her more and more. Her co-star is her film husband. I'm not going to say his name right. Hilmir Gunnarsson, maybe? I'm not sure what that... I don't know if I can even type it, but I don't know what that middle letter is. I'm an idiot when it comes to... I'm very uncultured, so... Yeah, but he's in it. Also does a good job. The caring husband, who you can tell there's some, like, shame and regret from his past actions of what's happened in life, but he's just trying to be there, help be there for his wife, love her, and provide for his newly formed family. Where to start with this film? Because you've probably heard some mixed things. Reception-wise, it's one of those films that critics liked it pretty well, but audiences not so much. I can see why. This film is not for everyone. I'm gonna just... It's from what I understand, they say in the description of the film, they use the words Nordic folktale. But I don't know if this folktale actually exists, if this is a thing, if it's based on like a Nordic urban legend or something like that, maybe like a Swedish myth. But basically the whole ideology behind this film is that this couple that at the present time can't have a child, they breed and herd sheep and all of this, and a half sheep, half human hybrid is born, and they claim it as theirs. And so, for the purposes of the film, it's basically them inherently defying nature, and it goes from there. Like I said, it's well directed. I would describe it very much as it's a mist-soaked thriller of sorts, like a mist-soaked film, only because like it's all very... There's clear skies throughout the film, but a lot of times it's kind of like misty and just there's always moisture in the air, and they're out in this like I think they're like in Sweden or something like that, or they're just out there, like borderline the Alps, but they have their own little like lush green pastures and farms where they just live quietly amongst them, like together, and are taking care of these sheep. And it's just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So there's that, you have on your side that fear of isolation, which you think they would use to their advantage, but I'll get to that in a minute. It definitely feels like an A24 film. It's not straightforward. It is in parts, but mostly it's very, you have this overall feeling of like uneasiness. It's an unsettling film. I don't know if I would call it a horror film, but it is definitely, I felt very unsettled, very on edge, uneasy throughout my viewing of it. All things considered, going into this film, from the trailer and the reason why I wanted to go see it to begin with, it is a superbly interesting premise. Great premise, like this lamb kid and taken on as their own, and then from what the trailers seem to insinuate, weird, creepy shit starts happening because now we're like going against nature. That's a good premise and a good way to get you into the film and to go see it. Side note, this is a foreign film. I don't know if I just saw an English trailer or if I didn't look at it, pay enough attention, but I didn't know this was actually a foreign film, so that was kind of neat. The effects were good. For the kid, it was a mixture that was, I think, well done. A well-done mixture of VFX and puppet work, which, I mean, we like to see puppet work and practical effects in this film, but, I mean, I would have liked the whole thing to have been practical. I think they could have done that pretty well, and I'm very sad they didn't, but it looks practical enough for the purposes of this film, so props for at least, like, working to make something that's digital but doesn't look digital, you know? Every actor in this film, good performance, no complaints there. Noma Rapace, I don't want to say stole the show, but I mean, she's clearly the main character, so she's kind of like the emotional driving force of it, but I mean, everybody, you know, pitches in and does their own job. So, although I feel like some of these sheep and that dog, I think they were paid actors because they went with their cues a little bit too well. Like, they were very, I mean, I know sheep dogs are well trained, but damn. Okay, getting into the film. Like I said, it's not for everyone. Unfortunately, the narrative's not very engaging. Things just kind of happen. Like, once the big reveal of, like, oh, sheep boy, and that's that, there's some moments of heightened tension. There's moments where you're like, oh shit, this is about to happen. But a lot of the film is just kind of like watching them all go about their day-to-day lives with, like, a general sense of uneasiness and knowing something eventually, knowing that at some point in this hour, 45-minute film, the other shoe is going to drop. But unfortunately, things don't really, the other shoe doesn't drop until way farther in the film. In my opinion, way too late in the film for it to make a huge difference for me, for the film overall. But yeah, the narrative wasn't, I thought it was just going to be a slow burn, and the film is definitely a slow burn, but I was never enticed or enthralled. I was curious to see how it would go, what resolution or denouement these characters in the narrative would have, but alas, not so much. It's just we're just watching things happen, and a lot of what happens seems to be of very little consequence, unfortunately. All the way up to the ending. When the ending happens, I will not spoil it because, I mean, it's almost kind of sort of worth it just for the ending. I'm not sure if I would say it is, but I mean, if you're really curious, the ending kind of throws you for a loop. I'm not gonna lie. But honestly, overall, anticlimactic, I would say. I would say that the build-up doesn't have a payoff, but I almost felt like there wasn't much in the way of a build-up. Like, I didn't feel like the film was really building to anything. I knew something was going to happen, but things just happen, and things just kind of go until they don't. There's no, like, tension or build-up. There's moments of tension, like I said. Like, inside you're like, something's gonna happen. When's it gonna happen? It's more like you're just like, nothing happens for so long that you're like, well, shit, something's gonna happen eventually. And you're waiting for something to happen that really doesn't come, in my opinion. Overall, yeah, I would say major sense of wasted potential in this. That's all there is to it. It's got to be a low-budget film. It's well acted, it's well shot, with a great premise, but the execution doesn't ruin the film. But I don't know if it's worth seeing it. Like, it's interesting if you're going to go into this just to kind of watch this, like, dynamic play out and to see kind of, you know, oh, well, what's going to happen to this couple who is kind of defying nature in a way and trying to, like, claim this, whatever this thing is, wherever it came from, claim this thing for themselves. Like, I don't know, like a whole, if you're looking for like if you want to like go into a deep dive and you want to write a video essay about how this is some type of like, how the child is an analogy or this whole situation is a metaphor for like fighting against the natural will of things or forces of nature. I don't know. I'm sure there's plenty, if you really want to dig and assign meaning, I'm sure there's plenty to extrapolate from the film, but I'm not there for it. Green Knight, at least, was an interesting narrative and had a purpose and destination. Important things happened on that journey. It was almost like a coming of age for Sir Gawain. But in The Lamb, nothing happens. Like, I mean, that's kind of an exaggeration. Things happen, but it's not enticing. It's not engaging. It's just not till the very end when things really happen and you're like, geez, what's going on? But like, even the lead up to that, it's just, I went into this and I did not think this was a shitty film, but I felt very disappointed. Perhaps the trailer made me feel as if it was something different, kind of like what The Witch did, but I digress. I'd say overall, The Lamb is worth a low 3 out of 5. It's below average. It's not a bad film. Low 3 out of 5. I wouldn't bother seeing it in theaters, honestly. Stream it or rent it at some point if you're very curious. If you're a fan of A24's library of films, but you know to kind of manage your expectations, this isn't the next Hereditary, nor anything like that. But it is an A24 film. It's unsettling, it's weird, interesting premise, good actors in it. I mean, if you're just kind of like looking, if you want to watch it out of curiosity, you're not wasting your time. I'm just saying, like, don't expect to be shook to your core by the narrative. Like, it's a film that exists, period. That's all I have to say. This might be one of my shorter reviews, actually. I just don't have a lot to say about it because there's nothing to say about it. Another kind of spooky, borderline horror film for you this month of October, but we got some even better horror films coming up down the pipe. So, yeah. Again, The Lamb. Maybe skip this one in theaters, but if you're curious enough, rent it later. But that's all I got to say about it. So, did you disagree? Am I completely on the wrong? Did I misinterpret the film? Go to the comments below, let me know. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching as always, and stay tuned for the next movie review that I do. Goodbye, travelers.